Good morning, everybody. Pastor Stitch, Narrow Path Christian Church, BC, Bay City, Michigan. Welcome to the Biker Devotional. Today is November 22nd, 2024. We're looking at Proverbs chapter 22, and we're going to look at verse 22 and 23. Good morning, Rhonda. Good morning, Kay. Good morning to the rest of you that may be watching or catch this later. So glad that you're all here. Have you ever had an occasion where something comes up and you think to yourself, I can go ahead and do this because, well, it's not going to matter. Nobody will notice. Everybody does it. It's just the normal thing to do in the world. I'll give you one example. You're driving down the highway, the speed limit is 70 miles an hour, and you're driving at 80 because everybody is driving at 80 miles an hour. You know you can get away with it. It's okay to do. Matter of fact, the cops aren't going to pull you over because everybody else is doing it. That's your impression of things. Or you park in the handicapped parking spot because you're only going to run inside for a minute, and nobody's going to be able to get the cops there to write you a ticket fast enough because you'll be out before they get there. Or whatever situation you might be dealing with. Maybe you've got somebody who you interact with that that you should be giving them something, and that if you short them a little bit, they'll still be happy with what they get. Have you ever had those situations where you might feel a little bit guilty for a moment, but in the long run, you probably brush it right off, don't you? If you're anything like me, it's easy to do. Not so much as today as it was years ago, but it still happens. Well, Solomon's talking to us today in Proverbs 22, verse 22 and 23, and he says this: don't rob a poor man just because he's poor. In other words, he's poor, so he's not going to be able to defend himself. He's not going to be able to take you to court. He's not going to be able... You don't cheat somebody because they can't do anything about it. Then he goes on and says, don't crush the oppressed at the gate. Talk bad about them in front of other people. See, the gate is where the people gathered together to hold court, right? And it was the place where reputations were built or destroyed. And Solomon says, don't crush the oppressed at the gate. Just because they're down, don't beat them down more. Yeah, I've done that a lot. That the idea of the wounded prey syndrome, and we all pile on. I've done that. Solomon reminds us why we shouldn't do those things in verse 23. The Lord will take up their case and will plunder those who plunder them. When it comes down to it, we find ourselves in places all the time where it might be the normal thing to do. Somebody is talking bad about somebody, and we just join in the conversation. I say it all the time when it happens to me. I got sucked in. Well, yeah, I did, but I allowed myself to get sucked in. That's exactly what Solomon is talking about. Don't rob a poor man because he's poor, and don't crush the oppressed at the gate, because God will take up their case and plunder those who plunder them. And every time I have participated in something like that, I have noticed that I get what I deserve. In some way, something happens. And that's God reminding me of where I stand. I have to remember that my focus needs to be all the time on Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit dwelling in me, God the Father, and what it is that He would have in every situation. And it's not easy, guys. Being a Christian has never been said to be easy. I tell people all the time when they tell me they want to say the sinner prayer, I tell them I don't know if you do, because it's going to take a lot of work, and it's a commitment, and He's going to hold you to it. You're signing a life and death contract with God. It's a big deal. Be sure before you make the decision. Now, I know that's not the normal way of doing things, but it's the right attitude to go into it. So today, when you interact with the world, remember, just because somebody can't defend themselves doesn't mean you have the right to join in. Just because someone is less than doesn't mean you can beat them down. Because God is their defender, and you will experience what comes from doing those things. I need to remember that. I think all of us do. Guys, I love y'all. I hope you have a great day. God bless.